Welcome to You Got to Laugh to Keep from Crying. My name is O.W. Sweeney, and I'm here with my brother, old friend, and we're trying to bring in this year right, and we're going to continue to give you things to think about. I'd like to introduce my friend and brother, my co-host, Richard Courts. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, brother, and good to be here with you. And you're O.W. Sweeney.
That's right.
And you're my co-host.
Yes,
so that's,
I
I like it. I like it that way.
So let's go on with the North Carolina Triad Jobs with Justice, which reaches at 336-272-2758. So we're gonna discuss some national politics, and I want to open up with this birthright issue of the 14th Amendment that our illustrious president, and that when I say illustrious, I do mean that as an insult to him, because there's nothing illustrious about him. He's trying.
You're talking about the new president, President Trump.
Well,
yeah.
President Trump, President Dump, same thing to me. But he's trying to end the birthright citizenship. And a lot of people just is not really looking at it as for what it is. From my standpoint, I'm looking at it as him that if he can get away with this here, he's beginning to bring on his monarchy, or his anarchy.
Well,
because he already has said that he should suspend the Constitution. And this, to me, is a form of him suspending the Constitution. And if the Supreme Court allow him to get away with this here, what else he gonna get with him? So, my point is that the Democrats supposed to be out there representing the people, and there's other political people out there representing, and the people who's supposed to be telling us things, the news media, is not pointing this out. They're saying he don't have the authority, but they're not saying how it would lead to if you got this authority, if you got away with it. They should expound on it to let the people know that he intends to become a dictator.
Well, I agree with your point, but I think that our viewers need a little more background about this. The 14th Amendment was a great victory for the people of the United States, and especially the people who had been enslaved. And this was 1868. It was a high moment when the treacherous vice president who replaced the assassinated Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Johnson of Tennessee, tried to sabotage the freedom of the people who had just been freed, including freeing themselves through the bloody Civil War. The Senate and House, under the leadership of Charles Sumner of Massachusetts and Thaddeus Stevens in the House, they came forward with a very strong reconstruction, not a BS reconstruction. And the 14th Amendment, as you're emphasizing correctly, in my view, was at the very heart of it. And really, what it provided was, whereas the Dred Scott decision in 1857, the Supreme Court, I want our viewers to realize this, that the Supreme Court of the United States had ruled, it was a slaveocracy Supreme Court of the United States.
Yes.
And they ruled that even Afro-Americans or people of African descent who were themselves free were not entitled to any rights as citizens of the United States if they came from a family that had been slaves at any time. So, so all the idea that, people work, if they work hard and they can managed to get their freedom and all that stuff. That it was all BS.
Yes.
And so under the Dred Scott decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, basically no people from African descent virtually could be free in the United States.
Yeah, but it,
So
was,
when
only,
18
it was only mistreated less worse than the indigenous people on here who still not have rights. The indigenous
Okay, but
people
we
still
right,
have
but we still.
So in my point of view,
Yeah.
if Trump in the birthright citizenship,
Mhm.
you, me, and everybody else who's not from the Native American need to pack our clothes.
Yeah, well, that would be a good application of it. I agree, but the effect of it, as the veteran Washington Post columnist and Afro-American writer Eugene Robinson pointed out in a recent column, that Trump's effort to reverse the 14th Amendment is unambiguously and profoundly racist, and this is the whole point. So he didn't bite his tongue when he pointed it out. Now, why did he say that? It's because in 1868, with the only president in the history of the United States that has taken effective measures to protect Afro-American citizens, namely Ulysses S. Grant, the war hero of the Union Army in the Civil War. That was, along with the Senate and the House, put forward this 14th Amendment, where just by virtue of someone being born in the United States, they go automatically, unless they were the child of a diplomat, they'd come over as part of some other country's foreign policy.
Yes.
Then, with that exception, everyone else who was born in the United States was a citizen and therefore entitled to the full rights of citizens. And that was in advance of just about every country in the world at that time, and perhaps every country in the world. So Trump didn't even say that he was against what happened with the 14th Amendment. Instead, what he said was that the wording in the 14th Amendment had in it the idea of people who were under the jurisdiction of the United States. But in reality, that particular provision was already found to have been a description of anybody living under the United States. It's like you and I talked about this, I think, last year in one of our last shows. So what is it? Who isn't under the jurisdiction of the United States when you're in the United States, right? I mean, I think that's what we talked about. So, and that was found in 1898 by a very different Supreme Court to, in a case involving Wong Kim Ark, who was the son of two undocumented immigrants from China at that time, 1898. And even with his both parents being undocumented, he was found to be a citizen by that Supreme Court. So this one little thing that Trump supposedly found, it's already been found to have been wrong, a wrong interpretation of those words. So what it means is that in the first place, Afro-American and other oppressed nationalities and groupings, they're trying to deprive the Trump forces, the MAGA forces, are trying to deprive of their right to the vote. And that is something that if they, as you said at the beginning, if they get away with this, if the Trump forces can get away with this, then it's about all over until the arms come out
Yeah, well,
You know, if you can't, if you,
what arm's gonna come out? I mean,
well,
is the Democratic Party who's supposed to be standing up for?
well, that's what you say.
I'm just saying they're not saying nothing now.
Yeah, and Biden was the biggest enabler of Trump, in my view.
Well,
So, and he was the chief Democrat for the last 4 years.
He was the chief Democrat, but there's still some more Democrats out there who's supposed to be standing up for the same.
And Republicans should be.
Republican too,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. And in fact, we saw that the Republicans, there were enough Republicans in Congress that were ready to not support what's his name from Florida.
Gates.
Gates, yeah, thank you, both. Gates. And so that was a positive. And there were even 3 Republicans in the Senate
Yes.
that went against Hegseth.
Hegseth.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Hegseth, yeah. And in fact, the new hero that's coming up behind Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, had to be called on to rescue Hegseth's nomination because there was a tie in the Senate.
I wouldn't consider it a rescue. I would just consider that part of the plan.
Well, I don't think they wanted to have it be that close.
Well,
They didn't want to lose any of the
no,
Republicans.
you're talking about close. I'm talking about him being confirmed. That was the plan, that he would be confirmed. You
Yeah,
gotta realize
yeah.
of those 50 Republicans
Yeah.
who voted for him, I don't believe any of them really wanted to go for it, except for they was under that threat of being primaries.
Right.
See, they're so worried about being re-elected, they're not worried about standing up for the citizens of the United States of America.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that. I think you're right.
So, along with that, what's the other thing I want to bring about that was dealing with the 14th Amendment?
Oh, okay.
The,
Well, you brought up the question of the Native Americans.
yeah, well,
So
I
that
always
was-
got to
that
bring
was-
up my brothers and sisters who still being mistreated on the reservation.
Right, exactly.
So, I always got to put in a word for them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't feel I'm being grateful to the people who listen to the show, that I'm hiding something. I have to be truthful and honest about the
Yeah,
situation.
and you're good on that portion. That's really consistent. But anyway, I think the idea of reversing the 14th Amendment is one of the ways that.
One of the steps to dictatorship, in my
Yeah,
view.
yeah, okay. Well,
But it's a very big decision, because people still have to remember, this man talked about suspending the Constitution of the United States. And now he's attacking the Constitution of the United States.
yeah. Of course, he's attacking it, O.W., yeah, from all angles. He's attacking it. For example, when he gave basically a total pardon to the January 6th prisoners who had been insurrectionists against the government, and he pardoned all of them after telling J.D. Vance and others that he was going to scrutinize these individual prisoners one at a time, and he did a carte blanche.
He was going to a case-by-case
Case by case basis, yeah. And instead, in the end, he just freed them all, and he did it without any of the usual preparation for people coming out of prison. So what happened, and this is where I feel very strongly, and a lot of people, I think a lot of people I've talked to, contrary to what the talking heads are saying, a lot of people are very upset about Trump's release of these criminals, these arch criminals.
Hold on now.
Yeah.
But yet, he's going after all those so-called immigrants who have committed violent acts against citizens of the United States. Now, I don't see no difference in a immigrant or anybody else committing a crime against another human being. They're criminals.
Okay, but
regardless.
now let me take back the.
But what I'm saying is, on one hand, he's trying to call out law and order. On the other hand, he's been disloyal to law and order.
Except that in reality, he's being disloyal to law and order in both cases.
Yes.
Because the statistics show that immigrants to the United States, whether they're here legally or not, are better law-abiding people in the United States to the U.S. laws than any other section of the population. They're not criminals by and large. And so,
but the ones who are, he make them stand up more so than the ones here in the United States who are doing the same thing. I mean, if you rape a woman, you rape a woman, whether you're an immigrant, a citizen of the United States of America or not.
Right.
You're still wrong. But don't put one saying one crime is worse than the other. Well, he shouldn't be here doing it. You shouldn't be here doing it. In my point of view, in my eyes. Okay?
yeah, except that what you're not taking into account, in my opinion, is this is just a way to cover over. This is a way for Trump to cover over, number one, the fact that he released all of these arch criminals right back into the society, arch criminals like himself, right? He's a convicted felon 34 times over, and every count that it was brought in that one case that was heard, every single juror found him guilty of every single charge. So Trump knows what he's doing exactly, and he's providing a mass base of hardened criminals to bring him in his MAGA effort, his MAGA cause, to enforce his will against any and all politicians, military leaders, police, or left-wing protesters or other social justice protesters who need to get out there and be demonstrating against his outrages. So I think we can't even accept, I don't believe we should accept what he says, what Trump says about wanting to take the immigrant criminals off the street, because even his own czar for immigration says, well, but every one of them, if they came to the country illegally, is a criminal. That's what
which is true,
right? And there you're saying that the people who are going to be rounded up, it doesn't matter if they're citizens of the United States who are related to non-citizens. It doesn't matter if how do you tell whether somebody is an illegal immigrant? Is it because somebody is a person of color, that somebody has a different first language than English, and all that? So basically, this is about dividing the country. It's about
big divide.
It's about having the fascism take hold in the United States. And that's what this whole thing, but with the total pardon and the way it was done of these January 6th insurrectionists, and including the seditious conspiracy convicted leaders of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, which gives Trump that force, that violent force that he can use against all of us.
A vicious military trained violent force to go against the people, the citizens of the United States who do not agree with the way Trump is running things. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, well,
those people out there
is that any different from what I just said?
Well, no difference.
Okay.
It's just that I just want to put my stamp on it.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Are we going to talk about that Bitcoin thing?
Well, cryptocurrency.
Yeah, cryptocurrency.
Well, I think how are we doing? We're still doing pretty well on today.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing is what all of these things have in common that we've talked about. We haven't talked about yet the fact that the White House, meaning Trump, froze federal grants and loans a couple of days ago without any warning at all,
which was not in his power to do, which stands back basically to what he's doing in the 14th Amendment, what he wants to.
Right. And
say what he and do what he wants to.
Right. And as I said to you before this show started, to me, what he did this, when Trump did this, not only, as you said, was it in violation of the Constitution of the United States, it's an appropriation of the power of Congress to determine what it is that the money of the federal government that they get from us is going to be used for. It's an attempt to try to, as he's done in a number of other cases, that Trump is trying to push back Congress as well as anybody standing in his way from carrying out a monarchy.
And I just want to remind you that when Joe Biden forgave those student loans, the Republicans came out and said that he did not have the authority to do that. But yet Trump is coming up there, and ain't nobody saying out open in the public, ain't nobody fighting him back, not the Republicans or the Democrats, saying that he don't have the authority to do this thing.
Yeah, I think though that one person I wanted to give a little bit of praise to right now is Joy Reid of MSNBC, because I don't think it's an accident. She's one of the few Afro-Americans that's in these places of being the key talking heads on different channels. And she's one of the only talking heads that has gotten a little bit better as Trump has become more and more outrageous. She's exposed him more and more. And that's a credit to her, and it's a credit to the Afro-American people who stand behind her. And so she has done, and really in the last few days, she's laid out the fact that this is fascism, that this is a path that we're on, and that it's exactly like, or almost exactly like, what happened in Nazi Germany.
Yeah, well,
and we don't have enough people saying that.
A point I want to bring up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of this man's name. They do a podcast. Oh Lord, I didn't see his face. His name. He was Trump advisor. Put out in his first term.
Talking about John Bolton?
No, John Bolton was
he was the foreign. He was the
one of the secretary's office or something like that. Advisor. His advisor. What's the man's name? Oh Lord, he got a talk show, radio, podcast.
A lot of them.
No, but this one is prominent,
Okay.
and they talk to him. They talk with him on other networks, exposing the fact of his support for Trump. Oh Lord.
What about him?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, other TV channels and stuff like that is putting them on, stating his point of view.
Yeah.
But yet, Joy Reid, they're not putting her point of view out there like they doing his.
Well, that's a problem. We need a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Saying these kind of things that Joy Reid, even some of the ones that have been positive in the past about Trump are back at the hedging their bets now.
Oh yeah.
And she's not, and that's to her credit. And she's going to have to be defended.
But what I'm saying, people don't put this information out there to the mass majority of the people.
Right.
Then what they're doing, at my point, is they're covering it up, and they're supporting Trump and his agenda.
Right.
And for what things he want to do.
Right. And that's the issue. That's why I made the point, OW, that the election, not at this show, but in the previous shows, that the 2024 election was not a free election. That there was a lot of fear. And when you saw these cowards like the head of the FBI, who was supposed to, the law was set up deliberately to have the head of the FBI be in there over
For a
two,
certain term,
or at least
10-year
over
term.
2 or 3 terms, for a 10-year
Yes.
term, that would automatically have them be there when there was a change in the White House, and that guy just
Stuck his tail between his legs.
absolutely, and slipped out the back door.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know, it's
and-
getting kind of close to the end of this
Yeah.
show, so I guess we have to find some way to close it up
Well, I think,
quickly.
yeah. Well, Trump's fostering chaos behind his major swindling scams, such as the cryptocurrency bonanza. He's made billions since he was elected. He's made billions of dollars more, and now in his major conspiracies involving billionaires, Elon Musk, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, and others. The whole conspiracy for tax cuts for the rich, and meanwhile, his whole answer to the masses of his base, the working poor and the poor who've been hurting.
We're gonna do something for you.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is we're going to do these tariffs. We're going to do these tariffs. In reality, every expert on economics says that the tariffs are going to keep raising the price of eggs and nearly everything else that these voters supposedly voted for him on. And you and I, my brother, will need to keep our unity, because
In our
in our
unity
unity lies our strength.